Secretary Hegseth, sir, a memo circulating on social media details the establishment of a National Guard response force that's going to be trained in crowd control and civil unrest and deployed in all 50 states by April of 2026. Can you verify the authenticity of that memo, and do you have any more information on the operations?
I'm not going to answer particulars on something that may be in the planning process, but we definitely do have multiple layers of National Guard response forces, whether it's in each state, whether it's regionally, whether it's Title 10 active duty, whether it's Washington, D.C. We've got a lot of different ways that constitutionally and legally we can employ Title 10 and Title 32 forces, and we will do so when necessary.
Some breaking news. This just in from Steve Bannon about Donald Trump's future presidential ambitions.
Well, he's going to get a third term. So Trump 28, Trump is going to be president in 28, and people just ought to get accommodated with that.
So what about the 22nd Amendment?
There's many different alternatives. At the appropriate time, we'll lay out what the plan is, but there's a plan, and President Trump will be the president in 28.
So if that were to happen, by my calculations, Trump would be 82. And if it were to happen and he complete a term, he'd be 86 at that term's end.
I want you to listen to something, see if you've heard this before. Here is our Speaker of the House on Friday. Listen.
They're going to descend on our Capitol for their much-anticipated so-called No Kings rally. We refer to it by its more accurate description, the Hate America rally, okay? And I'm not sure how anybody can refute that. If you think about what's going to happen here tomorrow, you're going to bring together the Marxists, the socialists, the Antifa advocates, the anarchists, and the pro-Hamas wing of the far-left Democrat Party. That is the modern Democratic Party. That's where they've gone. And
Okay, stop.
The Hate America.
Did you hear this? Have you heard that before? Listen to this.
I put this up and said, radicals, Islamists, communists, and socialists will work together against Israel, against capitalism, and work together to overturn stability. There are radicals.
He's going to get a third term. So Trump 28, Trump is going to be president in 28, and people just ought to get accommodated with that.
So what about the 22nd Amendment?
There's many different alternatives. At the appropriate time, we'll lay out what the plan is, but there's a plan. We had longer odds in 16 and longer odds in 24 than we got in 28. And President Trump will be the president of the United States, and the country needs him to be president of the United States. We have to finish what we started. Trump is a vehicle. I know this will drive you guys crazy, but he's a vehicle of divine providence. He's an instrument. He's very imperfect. He's not churchy, not particularly religious, but he's an instrument of divine will, and you can tell this of how he's pulled this off. We need him for at least one more term, right? And he'll get that in 28.
You're not driving me crazy. I'm trying to understand the coherence of the things you've just told me. On the one hand, you've said the Constitution is fit for purpose. Secondly, you've said that President Trump needs another term, even though the 22nd Amendment makes pretty clear that he cannot have another term.
Why does it make that clear?
Because he's on his second term already.
At some point in time, we will make sure we go through, Zanny, and define all those terms.
But you will be undermining the spirit of that amendment, even if you find some way around it.
If the American people, with the mechanisms we have, put Trump back in office, are the American people tearing up the Constitution? Would that be tearing up?
Well,
would the American people be going against the spirit of the Constitution, ma'am?
I think yes, actually, because I think what you will end up with is a populist justification for a quasi-dictatorship.
That's not true at all. Trump
That's what it sounds like.
It's not. Trump is a dictatorship. Did you just see the compromises he had to make on the big, beautiful bill? You see the compromises he has to do on everything, on accommodating Zelensky, on what President Trump. President Trump is nothing but a series of negotiations to kind of keep this thing rolling forward, where he's having trade-offs all the time.
But Steve, you've just spent the last 20 minutes telling me we have to smash the other side. There's no room for debate. There's no room for compromise. We must smash them. And now you're telling me this is a negotiation. I mean, that's
no.
I guess that's why it seems to me some kind of tension
First
there.
off, the only way President Trump wins in 2028 and continues to stay in office is by the will of the American people, okay? And the will of the American people is what the Constitution embodies. And so I think we're going to be in good hands there. We need to finish what we started.
What the people had a problem with back then was anarchists. I mean, they don't want a state government. They don't want hierarchies or centralized authority. How could they possibly? Communists They're going to work with the anarchists. They want absolute state control over every aspect of life. Islamists, you throw them in, they want theocratic rule. They want Sharia law. Yeah. I know it was for the simple-minded back then, couldn't understand it, but I think you do. Why do they work together? Because they all share one immediate goal, and that is destroy the existing order. I did a monologue on hour number 1 of today's podcast. I urge you to go back and listen to it. Why is this being funded by billionaires? For the same reason. Destroy the existing order. All of them think they will win in the end, okay? They know they can't achieve their utopia without first tearing down the system that they hate, capitalism, constitution, Western civilization, whatever it is. And once the system is down, that's when real chaos begins. That's when they turn on each other.
As you know, President Trump's peace deal is incredible. It is iconic. It's historic. I spent yesterday's monologue explaining why I thought so. And I think this is something that will be discussed for a very, very long time in a very positive way going forward. But I have a suggestion. It's not, nor should it be, the end of the peace process. The greatest danger and threat in the Middle East, which has spread to our country, our hemisphere, other Western nations, Britain, France, you name it, is Islamist terrorism. While it exists beyond the Middle East, the fact is that the Middle East is the hotbed of ideologically centered Islamist terrorism. It's where their so-called scholars are. It's where most of the headquarters are for the worst of the groups. Again, not just there, but there. So until this is addressed, even beyond Hamas, there can't be a permanent peace. I'll prove it to you. I don't see a budget request to eliminate all of our counterterrorism infrastructure, all the personnel and all the funding, nor should there ever be. It remains a deadly threat to we, the people of the United States. Now, to be more specific, until Arab and Muslim countries like Qatar stop funding it, promoting it, and exporting it, and using state-run propaganda operations that are wildly popular throughout the Arab and Muslim worlds like Al Jazeera, until they stop using them to spread it throughout the Muslim and Arab worlds, the eternal peace we say we want simply will be an illusion. This is not our battle alone or Israel's battle alone, even though people try and create that scenario. This is the battle between the West and Islamist terrorism. This is the battle between civilization and 7th century primitives. It's not about anything else. Other Arab and Muslim countries actively partner with terrorist groups, while also engaging our country and other Western nations on diplomatic and economic grounds, playing a very sinister and deadly game. The fact that the president effectively, at least for these purposes, unified these countries is probably the most historic aspect of the Trump peace plan. But the time is right with the Trump peace plan to use this historic achievement to go to the next level, to protect us, to protect the West. That is, challenge the root cause of the problem, Islamist terrorism. And to be clear, I believe the only leader who can do this, who is bold, courageous, strategic, and have a real shot at making it work, is President Trump. I don't know if it ever can be solved. I don't know. Now's a perfect opportunity to try. That would be eternal peace if it can be accomplished. Again, I'm not sure it can be. But now that these countries are supposedly aligned with us, are friends with us, now that we've had this huge historic change in the Middle East, I think we need to think bigger. This isn't about Israel, two-state solution. The attack on 9/11 had nothing to do with the two-state solution or Israel. This is bigger. It's very important that our leaders understand the ideology and the mindset that we are dealing with.